everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, October 22nd, and I suppose Halloween is coming. I need to get 3 victories with the Rogue Warrior, ideally. If I get one with the Paladin and Priest, then honestly I should keep this daily quest and just re-roll it later. Although I'm getting down to the point where that extra 10 gold potentially is not even worth it. Last time we started at rank 17, now we're almost off rank 18, so I'm just gonna move to casual and come back to Death Rattle Rogue and hope that I can get victories. Also, we're going through the news and there isn't a ton of games to cover, so even though this is the second recording of the stream, I very possibly will be done. And I'm kind of cool with that too. You know, saving my voice and doing maybe a silent post show would be very, very helpful in the process, since I'm doing the end of the year videos, and those are all averaging between 3 and 5 hour videos per letter of the alphabet. So there's actually 27 videos. So there's a lot of video footage that's getting made for the end of the year cleanup, but then kind of nothing else is getting made, which is also weird. So first game we have on Steam is called Chronicles of Lura, L-U-R-R-A. It's an RPG Maker game. It looks like an RPG Maker game. You know, it's actually helpful to see this RPG Maker game claim to be an RPG Maker game and just look at it to see kind of where the level of quality is, because there are a good collection of RPG games out there that look like RPG Maker games and actually aren't. Tales of Lura is a free-to-play game, so I guess the price is right at that point. But I imagine the multiple listed developers haven't made anything else, and the publisher hasn't made anything else. And yeah, there's still really no reason to play a RPG Maker game ever. Sorry. TechRaptor has a story. Updated Call of Duty Black Ops 4 multiplayer servers. Response time cut by 2/3 since the beta. I saw this story. Basically it was running at like 60 frames per second or 60 hertz, and it was then falling down to like 20 frames per second. Let's see. They are saying hertz, which would be cycles per second instead of frames per second, which doesn't
Justice is mine.
Really make a lot of sense. Let's see. The quote here in this article is, after comparing tests run on the beta and the final game, a couple of Reddit threads have reported that the server's response time is lower than it was in the beta. Beta servers performed at 60 Hz while the final games performed at 20 Hz, meaning that its ping back to the server time is 20 times a second instead of 60 times a second. This essentially means the server for the game is operating at 1/3 of the speed than it previously was. Let's see. Which inherently, yeah, that's gonna cause inconsistency and weirdness. So I won one copy of something from my hand. So if I do this,
there once was a man from Gilneas,
and play this next turn, and do that, then end the turn.
Is someone injured?
Let's see what the update. The update says Treyarch responded to the community's question about why the server's send rate has been reduced. Here's what they have to say. Quote, We have also noticed a lot of discussion around network performance over the past couple days and wanted to take a moment to address this directly. We're constantly working to optimize the games and particularly network performance to ensure the highest quality online experience for our players. For a game launch with as massive a population as ours hitting so many global servers at once, we configure our infrastructure to ensure game stability as the highest priority over all other factors, which inherently just means they cheaped out. Like, bait and switch there. A little bit of a bait and switch.
Justice is mine.
I'm not sure if it would be actionable or if you could sue somebody over it, but it definitely feels like a bait and switch. It goes on for another paragraph. It says now that we're past initial launch of the game, we're focusing on fine-tuning network performance.
Monsters behind you.
Let's see.
Justice is mine.
Let's see. Focus on fine-tuning network performance around the game using real-world data we have collected. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, we'll roll out several updates to our network setup to continue to improve the experience of our players since launch. As we have always said, launch is just the beginning, and we're committed to making Black Ops 4 the best supported game we've ever delivered. This is a journey that will involve consistent adjustments, improvements, and additions. We appreciate your continued support and patience. Thank you. So yeah, they cheaped out. That's really all it is you cheaped out.
My shield for Argus.
You thought you could get away with it, so you went for good press coverage and good response and good experience during the beta, which, you know, heck, a lot of streamers were probably playing the Call of Duty 4 beta and will have moved on from Black Ops 4 by the time the game even actually releases. So they were going for a good experience in the beta, and then they realized that that doesn't work when let's see. Do I want to kill this right now, or
Backstab.
I want to actually kill this right now?
Frozen wastes. Rise.
Into
Do
the
this.
breach.
That.
Justice is mine.
Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Titan Hunter, a roguelike game where you have to wander around the world in search of titans. Sounds like an interesting game until you look at it and you see it's a tiny pixel game that looks pretty bad. This looks a lot like a top-down shooter version of a cheap rip-off of Titan Souls by the name of it. English and Russian. No real surprise there that you'd have an English and Russian language game that's a low effort game. $1.19 discounted. Yeah, there's really nothing there.
Think.
Okay. 3 damage to all enemies.
Come, try your luck.
Friendly minion dies.
Into the breach.
Justice is mine.
Yeah. And see, I don't even know why I waste my time looking at developers of troll games to see what else they've developed. But I'm looking at this developer and yeah, there's nothing there that's worth mentioning. Next we have a game called Cute Girls, which I imagine is tag nudity and sexual content. Yes, actually this is the exact same game that has already been released on Steam. There is only one slight difference now, is that they put censored bars over the screenshots. So apparently games are getting... we kind of needed to see this to know, like, that Steam is responding to some of this, and you can't actually have nudity in the screenshots or video. And so they took down this one game. The Cute Girls is an asset flip of these really super skinny female characters, anime-esque girls in 3D. There's really no game there, although maybe they did in this time actually add a little bit of a button QuickTime event game experience. But clearly all this is a very low effort attempt to sell a terrible game for $3.19 discounted. And let's look at this. Is not, allegedly it's not the same developer that had released a very similar game where the girls were just walking down a catwalk. Now at least they are in Cute Girls are wandering around the beach. Let's see. Alright. 3 damage to all enemies. And deal 5 damage to this guy. And do that. So you know what, this one will die, and then I will have a 1/1 character, so I can put that there, and then I can put that there, then that there. Attack, 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 attack. There you go. Nice turn of events. First GameIndustry.biz article we have today. CCP CEO, which CCP sounds like the organization from RoboCop, quote, "You can't build a business," end quote, on current VR. Hilmar Vigar Peterson says virtual reality has fallen far short of the EVE developers' expectation. Yeah, oh, this is EVE Online. Guess you could continue to read this article, but in general, I agree with them. Here's a great example of how people input information without actually inputting information or fact-checking. Just read the title and in general agree with it. But I think I'm moderately well informed about the VR market. I see all the VR games that come out. It doesn't seem like you can build a market and a business around it. What you can do is you can put VR as an option in a regular game and sell a good regular game, but it very possibly is not worth the effort to do that. It depends on what you have to change and what you have to add. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next generation of VR games, whenever that starts, we start to see a lot of games that make no sense to be played in VR, but can be played in VR anyways, and just say, look, we have no official support for VR, but you can do it if you want it. There had already been some ideas of doing that, where there were VR modes in games that weren't inherently VR games in the first place, but that kind of failed. But even Resident Evil 7 still doesn't really feel like a game that makes a lot of sense playing in VR. Let's see. got this. And then this. GameIndustry.biz has another article. 6 Foot lays off 1/3 of the development staff. The flagship game Dreadnought hampered by delays, slow sales, and mixed reviews. I don't recall ever even hearing about a game called Dreadnought. So let's see if we can find it on Steam. Yeah, apparently I've seen the game because I've clicked on it before. Oh, at some point I'm gonna have all purple links on every Steam Link game. That'll be interesting. This, and then this, and this.
Justice is mine.
Yeah, Dreadnought came out October 14th, 2018, and it is 47% positive of 1,488 user reviews. And it doesn't look amazingly interesting. It's a free-to-play, massive multiplayer game. And we must have talked about it, but it certainly didn't leave an impression. There is a definite direct connection to all the layoffs and this being the end of the year and potentially the end of the fiscal quarter, fiscal year for a lot of companies, depending on when they decide their fiscal year ends. But as games are getting released to be sold for the Black Friday, Christmas holidays, once those games are out, it is the intention of at least a lot of video game companies to lay off a lot of employees. And again, this is a really good reason why the idea of a video game union that established a video game job pool, video game developers job pool, would make a lot of sense. Inherently, though, I think there is also going to have to be some negotiation where you're just going to have to guarantee contracts and guarantee employment in the video game industry, and then unions going to have to negotiate that on top of a job pool, and to the point where people are only laid off for cause and not just laid off at the whim of, or fired for cause, not laid off at the whim of employers. Let's see. I want to summon that. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to see that happen.
Justice is mine.
I wouldn't be surprised if this developer 6 Foot if this developer didn't have that many people in the first place. There's a anonymous source that says that the staff costs ran $80,000 a day, and that Dreadnought was making less than $20,000 a day. How would staff costs cost $80,000 a day? Let's see, if you're paying 8 people $100 a day at $10 an hour, that's probably not right. 5 people $20 an hour for game development? Maybe? So yeah. So I'm thinking 4 people times 10 times another 10. 400 employees at averaging $20 an hour. That seems reasonable. but then you also have to make some accounting for other things too, like how much
There once was a man from
how much the management is overpaying themselves compared to, say,
Justice is mine.
I'm not quite ready to play this.
My hand is too full.
Like, a manager themselves might be paying themselves $1,000 a day. One would hope not $10,000 a day, but yeah.
Such a price for power.
So there could be a lot of people there, there could be less. It really depends on how much an average programmer gets paid per hour. I probably calculated that wrong, way wrong. Moving on, I am certainly not awake enough to be doing math. So let's move on and talk about something else. And as soon as I move the casual, I start getting victories, of course. Well, next we have a game called Contract. That's Kontrakt. It's tagged with nudity, so I don't want to show it quite yet. It looks like it's a top-down shooter with kind of pixely graphics. I've seen several games like this before. I don't inherently want to call it just an asset flip game, but it also doesn't look particularly interesting. Let's see, let's just jump through all the screenshots. If there is nudity in this game, it's probably not in the screenshots, and I kind of question if there actually is any nudity in it at all. If there is, it's probably pixely nudity. Like, this doesn't feel like a game that would be a visual novel or an RPG where it would jump and show you a zoomed in version of the characters. Let's come over here and play some more. Actually, I want to hold on to this guy. Yeah, so we can show off this game. Contract. It's a top-down shooter game. Looks very busy. Doesn't look like it has much detail here. I really question how many people really even want to play top-down shooter games. It says 42 achievements. It's $13.49 discounted. Let's see what else this developer's made. Well, a game that's mixed, and mixed. That clearly is not a good quality developer. So we don't have to put that on the wish list or follow list as it is going now. Let's see.
Justice is mine.
Gamasutra has an article, Games as a Service drives huge market value spike for EA Activision. We'd already really talked about this, but I mean, certainly it's worth pointing out again that clearly there is a circular argument that Jim Sterling tried to make, and it's hard to really make this argument and it feel 100% valid. Clearly, for EA and Activision, having games as services and adding microtransactions and getting people to spend more and more money has made them more money and made their stock valuation go up. So theoretically, assuming that EA and Activision aren't taking on more expenses elsewhere, which they probably are, either in paying bonuses to the CEOs and the management, or just paying out bonuses or share options to everybody, or by purchasing other companies or purchasing licenses for other games to publish, or maybe even buying new computers, developing new software, working on some secret projects that they haven't announced. Assuming that they're not actually doing something with the money, they would have more money and they would potentially at that point, and this is where Jim Sterling kind of loses me, they would lose the ability to say they need to charge more and they need all these microtransactions to keep the price of video games down to $60 when really they haven't been down to $60 in quite a while. That they're really approaching $80 if not $100 for some of these games when you buy the season passes and the DLC and everything. I would say almost undoubtedly we've seen other games do it. You can make smaller scale games that are successful both critically and financially. So that kind of is not something that I would believe if somebody tried to say, actually you can't make successful smaller scale games. Yes you can. We've seen them. We've seen it happen.
Try your luck.
But just because EA's and Activision's market valuation is high doesn't mean that they aren't potentially at least using that money for some internal development, improvement, development of the next game. I would also argue that well, when you just look at EA is probably a great example of a company that needs, if it wants to maintain relevancy and maintain profit, it needs to develop new games and have new tentpole services, and it's being run by somebody who doesn't seem to realize that. And so EA, I wouldn't be surprised if over the next decade EA falls out of business, goes bankrupt. Just because they are not developing tentpole services, and all they're really selling are the same things over and over and over again. NBA 2K, sports games, FIFA, things like that. Whereas Activision Blizzard, on the other hand, is kind of the exact opposite. Why Activision Blizzard is working on, potentially working on a StarCraft game, working on at least re-releases of Diablo, if not a whole new Diablo thing. Although they did, I think, say they weren't going to announce anything at BlizzCon with Diablo related this year. Activision Blizzard is still supporting Hearthstone, still supporting Overwatch. Imagine a couple years ago if somebody had said that Activision Blizzard wasn't investing the money they were making and they weren't developing anything new. How surprised would somebody who had said that be once Overwatch came out and it was this whole new thing for them? They'd never done a hero shooter game. They're still supporting Heroes of the Storm. They're still supporting the esports StarCraft community. That there's active development almost certainly for other games that are hidden behind there. Now I'm not sure Activision Blizzard is ever going to release a single player focused game again, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Like if they were going to do a Walking Dead Telltale style game of Diablo that was focused on just the characters in the Diablo universe in a single player story way, and if it was actually a little bit more of a video game than a Telltale game was, that would be amazing. That would be great. In fact, you could do that with Diablo, StarCraft, Warcraft. You could revitalize a lot of your series just by having these side Telltale-like games instead. So that would be something that hopefully, or that or something like that would hopefully be where Activision is putting its money into development. I would be very surprised, to counter my thought, if in the next few years Activision went out of business. And let me make it straight, I am really not a Activision fanboy in any sense. Like, sure, I play Hearthstone, but I don't even really like Hearthstone.
Justice is mine.
Man, if I had done that first, then attacked, I would have killed that. I just play Hearthstone because it's slow enough to talk about video game news while you're doing it, and it's the probably most popular, probably the most popular card game right now. By the way, Activision Blizzard is also supporting World of Warcraft, in case I didn't mention that one. Greenman. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Greenman Gaming delays float due to, quote, horrendous equities market. Float was originally due in September. So the latest company due to float on the UK stock exchange has delayed its plans. I have no idea what floating is. Let's see. It was a 100 million flotation.
I wonder.
If I was to roughly guess, the concept of floating something is to put your company out or some stocks out at a certain price and see if there are any takers. That'd be my guess. But so instead of like an initial sales offering or an IPO offering, that would be my guess. Let's see. Can I even Google what a flotation is? Here we go. What is a stock market flotation? The process of converting a private company into a public company by issuing shares available for public. Allows company to allow financing externally instead of using retained earnings to fund new projects or expansion. So maybe float is just what we call IPOs in the United States, because that seems pretty much like an IPO to me, an initial public offering. Alright, let's see. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called 3 Buttons, which looks like a 3D Unity game. Looks like it might have slightly more effort put into it than most, but still you can kind of see how this is maybe a second or third year video game programmer's project with no animator and no texture maker in here. Let's see, what do they want for this? If you give the donation edition, it's $5.99. I believe it's free to play. Well, actually, I don't even see a place where you can buy it. Has it been already taken off the Steam store? Because I don't see a free-to-play or download now button anyway. Weird. I want this one, so I want to play this.
Swiftly.
And then this.
Monsters behind you.
And then get rid of this. And this. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Morate's Arena. It's a VR game polygonal. So stand anywhere and shoot, I'm sure. Like, I don't even think that this is a game. I'm not seeing any enemies. Just suffering from dark screenshot syndrome, skeleton asset flips, ugly asset flips in the first place. Your typical third-party EULA for no reason, early access for no reason, 99 cents for a VR game is an extremely cheap game. And of course the developer hasn't made anything else. Right. So I could do this or I could do this. And I think it's smarter to do this. And do that. TechRaptor has an article, Sonic Colors port may be coming to Steam. So, yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm not sure Sonic Colors have was even a good game. So, another Sonic game. Inherently, the problem with the Sonic series is it's always at best second tier to the Nintendo Mario series, and at worst it is considerably lower than many of the Nintendo series.
Warriors of the frozen wastes.
So, but on top of that, it also has a very consistent issue of just being sometimes moderately good and sometimes not great. There's problems with the original 3 Sonic games and its spin-offs, and I would say maybe the remake of the original Sonic game that was the fan project might be the actual only good Sonic game out there. I'd really have to go into detail and investigate to decide whether I think there's. See, I'll do that. And do that. See, next we have a game on Steam called Spinball, which sounds like Sonic Spinball, but clearly isn't. It's just again, low effort, low texture Pong game with 4 players that can go on either side of the field, so there's a slight change there, but that's kind of the only thing being added. This is a game that might be acceptable had there been a ton of polish and a ton of texturing and art on it, but in its current form, the way it looks like a low effort game. Early access for no reason, $2.99. Like, developers really need to think about, why is their game coming out in early access? Like, is there a good reason to have people play your game and give you feedback because you're actively trying to improve it? Because a developer like this that makes a game like Spinball almost certainly is not trying to improve anything. So it becomes mute and pointless to have an early access tag. It's just being used as yet another excuse for why the game doesn't look good enough to actually be allowed to be sold on Steam. Although Valve could pull a nice little trick. It's time to move over to the European account finally. They could pull a nice little trick and kick a lot of games off of Steam if they've been in early access for more than a year or more than 2 years. Like, people that have used that flag could find it used against them. And I would not be upset with that. I think if they wanted to have standards that are applied equally to everybody like that, that would be okay. Alright, so now we're gonna re-roll this, and dungeons, runs, and battlecry cards, and paladin, and priest cards. Who would be more likely to have battle cries, a paladin or a priest? I think the priest. So let's play control priest, play ranked. Next game we have on Steam is Spirits of Mysteries, Chains of Promise, Collector's Edition. For the most part, I'm removing in the end of the year cleanup, wishlist cleanup, Steam wishlist cleanup. I'm gonna have to solidify the actual name of it eventually. I'm trying to get rid of almost all hidden object games, in particular Big Fish Games. That I found out Big Fish Games has their own like website and portal, so they're selling these on some other website. The only ones I'm thinking about maybe keeping would be games that are part of series, because then that might make sense, but then also games that are part of series that are rated highly. And I kind of doubt, I have a lack of faith certainly in Big Fish Games to be bringing about the best hidden object games ever. You would kind of think that if you're a hidden object developer, you wouldn't go through a publisher to make such a simplistic and cheap game. Maybe that is the case, and you would just release the game yourself and get more profit. But maybe that isn't the case. Maybe you have to go through Big Fish Games to get more attention, or maybe Big Fish Games pays you a lot to develop the game. So play that, and we'll just end the turn there. If I can get these two on the field and have a bunch of spells this play, that would work. Gamma Sutra has an article. There's a report of significant layoffs at Tron Worlds following the acquisition of Gamigo. Tron Worlds has laid off a significant portion of its staff, according to sources speaking to Gamma Sutra. The layoffs came as a result of the company's acquisition of Gamigo. Let's see. There's according to a statement from Tron Worlds, there's been a transaction involving the Tron Worlds and its games that have indeed resulted in layoffs at the company, which might be a long and complicated way of saying that something went wrong. Tron Worlds declined to comment on the extent of the layoffs itself, saying the email, while many of the names and faces you've come to know at our studios will remain on through the transition, others will not be making the journey. For those who are leaving, we are forever grateful for your incredible work and contributions over the years. And see, that's about as nice as you can get when you're laying somebody off. It's just, you know, do your best to not look like a jerk when firing people or laying them off. Same difference as far as I'm concerned. Let's see.
I comply.
Let's hit that.
Job done.
Prior to this, Tron Worlds was employed over 200 people. So somewhere between 1 and 200 people, well, I guess 2 and 200 people have been laid off. The question, and where this is not good reporting in my opinion, is who are trying worlds? What have they made? Because that's where it might make some sense. So I googled that, and under their game section they have Atlas Reactor, Trove, Defiance 2050, Rift, and Arcage. So I know what happened here. Now that I know what they've developed. Defiance 2050 was that awful re-release that was worse than the original release, if I recall correctly, of a game that was a TV tie-in for a show that's not even on TV anymore. What does this guy do? Random shaman cards.
Job's done.
So yeah, they've just not been making good products for a while. Moving on, and I really am gonna run out of news at this rate. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Pixel RPG. What's going on here is games were just not getting improved on the weekend. So yeah, looking at these pixel graphics, there's no way this would be visually appealing enough for me to want to play this game. This is a joke. Like, even a super early DOS-based game that looked like this would be unacceptable to cover or play. And again, third-party EULA for no reason, free to play. Just a total joke of a game. Shouldn't be allowed on Steam, in my opinion. If you're going to curate anything, curate this stuff. On the other hand, maybe you don't have to curate these things because maybe nobody actually buys them. That sucked. I lost the one card that was my main bit of strategy.
Job's done.
I think we already talked about this game, but I'll mention it again. Mega Dimension Neptunia VIRR is the VR version of the Mega Dimension / Cyber Dimension Neptunia. I think it's just called the Neptunia series, which is a JRPG. Looks like it's a fast-paced JRPG games. In a lot of ways, maybe the Neptunia series is more interesting to me than the Final Fantasy series. There is something to be said about the Final Fantasy series having its own unique artistic bent and style that is a little less anime and is a little more specific to one specific developer or artist's idea. So perhaps, just perhaps, that's something that I'd prefer to not have, is perhaps I wouldn't want to play with the artistic style of Final Fantasy and instead play with a different artistic style. Starting to heal a character there. On the other hand, maybe the Neptunia series would just be too anime, and then that would have a problem. It would turn off too many people. I guess that's something I should think about, is if I am ever going to do a JRPG, that's such a large commitment of time. It really has to be balanced out with other content so that my entire fan base doesn't get bored and leave, or at least everybody who's not into whatever that JRPG is doesn't get bored and leave. Not that anybody's really watching the pre-recorded videos anyways.
lose little time.
Let's see. Let's do this.
Is someone injured?
Double minions health.
I comply.
See, next game we have on Steam is called Kraken. There's quite a bit of Lovecraftian games on Steam, although Krakens inherently aren't. They don't mean that they're Lovecraftians, they can just be giant squids. Well, that wasn't anything. What a boring video. You're on a ship, you see giant kraken legs, and you can just sail right past them, and unless you jump in the water, like, this game doesn't feel like it has a concept of a gameplay mechanic in it. It's got some animation, and honestly, if you're gonna just make a short animated story, that might make some sense. But honestly, this looks like it's in a troll game or a joke game or just a low effort game. It's discounted to $2.33, but the Steampunk Games logo is questionable. This is the only game from this developer. I guess I could be extremely generous and
Medicine insects.
I comply.
like, I could be really generous and leave this game on the follow list, but I honestly don't think I even need to do that. Like, this is not a game that's gonna get more polish, and it's multiplayer only, so so clearly nobody will ever play it, and there'll be nothing you can do with it. Like, that whole pirate thing still being an issue. So if the minions attack with another minions attack. Right. Do 2 damage to all other minions.
Beware the shadow.
And just end the turn there. Moving on, GameIndustry.biz has an article. The former Disney Infinity executive joins Gearbox. John Vignacchi, who, if he's the person I think he is, I don't know, he might also be the person who is in a lot of ways to blame why Disney Infinity was shut down in the first place, but I think also there is a good chance that Disney, just as a much larger corporation, decided it would prefer to license or just not have video games. In a lot of ways, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney owners of Disneyland thought to themselves, actually, if we make any games that involve our properties, people are less likely to come to our amusement parks, so I'd prefer to just they might very well prefer to just not have any video games with their properties, which would be kind of crazy, but maybe. So the former vice president of production of the Disney Infinity franchise, John Vignacchi, has announced his next move. Vignacchi will be joining Borderlands studio Gearbox Publishing as executive producer for a new, as of yet unannounced IP. This is weird that it's under Gearbox Publishing, because I would think that Gearbox regular could use a new, as of yet announced IP too. They had tried Battleborn, and that didn't succeed. Yeah, well, it didn't succeed as well as they would have liked it to, at least. But that was mostly Overwatch's fault, if anything. I think Battleborn probably would have been a little bit better received had Overwatch not come out a week earlier. There are questions certainly there. If it's a brand new IP, it can be anything. But you generally speak, assume it's some Unreal based first person shooter style game. Like, I really doubt we're gonna see them do something like a Telltale game or anything like that. 2 damage to all other minions. If I do that, then this one dies. So do I trade a taunt for a taunt? I kind of have to. Like, so we do this, and that draws a card, and then I do this. And then I do this. And hopefully that's good enough. Let's see. There's a quote here. Big news. Excited to announce I'm joining the merry band of misfits at Gearbox Publishing. Reads Vinyaki's tweet announcements. I'll be taking the reins as executive producer on a new tentpole franchise for the company. Another quote here, we will be working on something that we hope will surprise and delight gamers of all ages, whether you're 6 or 60. Okay, so that inherently tells me that it's probably a more kid-oriented game than Gearbox has ever done. And the thing I never really thought, I would have never had Gearbox pegged as even wanting to do a kid-friendly game. Like, when you think about what Gearbox is, when you think about what Borderlands is, no, that's not at all. Yeah, that's just not in line with realisticness. Hey, let's do the dungeon run bosses just to see if we can potentially play Battlecry cards while doing the dungeon run, because then that would work pretty well. So we'll see if we can get some Battlecry cards. That's one Battlecry. This is one Battlecry. Just gotta look and see what we're doing right now. Secrets, probably. It's probably all about the secrets. Yeah, I'll do this. Vinyaki spent 7 years at Disney Interactive Studios, beginning as development director, overseeing several different IPs, then moving to VP of production on the Disney Infinity platform from 2012 to 2016. Prior to that, Vinyaki had also experienced at Vogster Entertainment, as well as 8 years in various roles at Midway Games. So he's making some kind of kids game, which is weird for Gearbox. Inherently, this is kind of the problem that I keep running into with Gearbox, is that even Borderlands 2 felt a little bit more SJW than Borderlands 1. I recently found out that the person who the person who plays voice acts Claptrap doesn't even work at Gearbox anymore. The person who played in voice acted Scooter doesn't work at Gearbox anymore. So it really comes down to how many people actually that he worked on Borderlands 1 or Borderlands 2 or Borderlands 3 sequel even work at Gearbox, And even if they do work at Gearbox, then it comes down to a bigger question of, are they the same type of personality and people that they were when those games came out, or have they gone full SJW and they can't do a dirty joke and they can't make a sexual innuendo? When you think about like Mad Moxie and how she's dressed, is she gonna come out in way more conservative clothing and it not make any sense for the character? Let's see. Like there's definitely a frat boy mentality that was part of the enjoyableness of the Borderlands series. And this is from somebody who's not really a frat boy themselves, but I certainly understand the idea and the reason behind that.
Such easy sport.
And so I wouldn't want to lose the spirit of this game series. Also, in fairness, wouldn't want more frat boy games like Borderlands. Like Bulletstorm is a great example. Bulletstorm is basically about the exact same mentality of Borderlands, but taken too far. And I found that storyline just gross and offensive because it took it too far. Or possibly there's only enough room in my heart for one game like that.
The eternal hunt has begun. Shinzo approves.
Job's done.
Not sure if I'm really playing Battlecry games. Like, I really don't know what kind of kids games they think they're gonna make. It'll be interesting to see that. I guess this might be the end of our recording, or it normally would be, but I think I'll just continue. Let's see.
Hey, join the goats or meet my fist.
Yes, this one speaks Shinzo's language.
Battlecry's triggered twice. Interesting. Just go ahead and attack, I guess. Next we have a game on Steam called Cubanoids, which looks like it's a wave-based sort of top-down shooter tower defense game. Seems like it's well, it's not tower defense actually. It seems like it's really fast-paced, almost as if somebody programmed something and then sped it up way faster. You don't see much of a UI here. You don't see much detail. Everything's zoomed out so much. It's probably all asset flip stuff. And it's early access, $2.09 discounted. Yep, another game not making it to the fall list. I think we might, at this point, run into an incident where we actually end up... Oops. Played that wrong.
We'll handle this.
This might be the first day ever where there's literally no game that makes it to the fall list. Because so far that is the case. Next we have a game on Steam called One Gun Cat, which again looks like a cell phone game, doesn't look very good. Well, it does have a lot more polish than a lot of games. It still just looks like a dumb concept made into a cell phone game. How much do they want for it? English and Russian, probably a troll game. Discounted at $2.99. Let's see if this developer's made anything else. No, they haven't. Okay. We need to do this. And let's see, this. And this. this. And let's see, we'll play this here. Next we have a game on Steam called Fat City, which I suspect might just be fat people hate. Although I guess that's dead at this point, as whatever that was, or died down. Like I never really understood why people would hate fat people. It's like you should pity them, like, for being unhealthy. I get hating people that are proud to be unhealthy and think that somehow they are magically healthy, but I don't think that's most people. This seems to be a VR game that doesn't actually require VR, and it's discounted at $8.99, but I don't see anything here that looks like this even should be a VR game. Am I in just such a bad mood right now that I'm not even giving this game a chance? Let's see what else this developer has made. Disney Infinity Gold Edition 1.0, Disney Infinity 3.0 Gold Edition. I didn't know you could get Disney Infinity on Steam. Interesting. I didn't even know you could play Disney Infinity on PC. Well, there might be some relevance here then. If this developer was some sub-licenser that made the Disney Infinity games, which I'm not going to say are great games, then I'll put this one on the follow list. Let's see. Meanwhile, let's do this. And this, and I sadly don't have 12 mana to use my ability. I could kill this guy, or I could just leave it alone.
I ain't talking. Funnel cakes! Get your funnel cakes here!
We also have a Twitter from Get Set Games, which we'll click on them and see who they are in a second, who tweeted out, "Thrilled to announce we're partnering with Gearbox Official. We're working on an exciting new tentpole franchise that aims to surprise and delight kids of all of us, whether you're 6 or 60, hashtag game jobs, hashtag game dev jobs." Another tweet, "We have lots of open positions to join our growing team. Here in Toronto, we are looking for top tier talent with Unreal Engine 4 experience to join us in the studio immediately. Send all your resumes to jobs@getsetgames.com. So yeah, it's a new Toronto based group. Let's see. Guess we can charge here. This is no problem with that.
I like the spirit on that one.
And let's see. Do that. And then guess we'll do that. Still not 3 away. But I guess I can attack, so it's no problem. Get Set Games describes themselves on Twitter as a totally awesome game developer, makers of Mega Run, Monsters Incorporated, maybe? Run, Mega Jump, Pop Tweets, and Abacus for iPhone and Android. So almost certainly what they're developing is some kid's cell phone game. Not a Unreal Engine 4 game that that is going to be amazing graphics. Or I don't know, maybe they're making something in the middle there. Well, I'm gonna win, so I should just play things with battle cries, and I didn't. Well, that was stupid of me. Just hope that I can do this. Let's see. So when I finish this, will it say if I've done any battle cry progress? I guess not. So you can't play battle cry cards here. So I'm just playing this then for no reason to get the card pack. I'll take this. And we'll continue. Gamasutra has an article. Join Ubisoft and BuzzFeed in a free crash course on licensing your own OP. Now, to be fair, here I wouldn't really trust Ubisoft or BuzzFeed to educate you how to license your own IP. I would say have a non-interested party teach you that. But apparently they are going to have some kind of event on October 30th in San Francisco, if you want to go listen to that event. But that, I mean, that seems like really dumb. You're listening to the people that you're very possibly going to license to in the form of Ubisoft, and I have no idea why BuzzFeed would even be included in that conversation at all. Just keep these other two cards. Next we have a game on Steam called Find Differences, which is a find the difference in the picture, low effort game. Like, these pictures very possibly copyrighted and not licensed properly. I don't know, I'm not making any accusations, but you could totally see low effort developers not even knowing the legalities of something like this. They want 89 cents discounted for this game, so at least they've got the price slightly down to a realistic price, but it's really not there. And you can see several other games have come out and they haven't gotten any reviews by this developer. And the beast in my hand. Guess we'll play this.
Job's done.
This one. This gives you minions +1/+1, so probably gonna kill me pretty quickly. Next game is called Running Naked Simulator 2019. It's pixel graphics, but it's tagged with nudity, so I don't think I'll risk it here. It is really dumb looking. 2D character, basically in an infinite runner. Like, and you know, I've fallen for this trick before. Like, I bought and covered Shower with Your Dad Simulator, and I wasn't the only one to fall for these sensationalized, stupid games. Giant Bomb covered them, lots of streamers covered them, but I'm not gonna fall for this stupidity these days. It's not worth your time. Running Naked Simulator 2019 is 84 cents discounted. I mean, really, they are incredibly late to the party also for that idea. And this developer hasn't made anything else. We have Disgaea 5 Complete. Is now available on Steam. I think it's already on my wish list just because I happened to find it a bit early. I guess there's no real problem in showing it off. It's a It's a weird 2D, sometimes 3D, but mostly 2D, JRPG, tactical placement game with some weirdness. It feels a lot like it's sort of Paper Mario. It goes for the anime style of high fashion with lots of skin exposed in some of the characters, but I don't think it really gets too much of a level. It's never tagged with, it's not tagged with nudity or sex or anything, so you're not gonna see much. There is still one Disgaea that isn't on Steam. 54 hours to 116 hours is the estimated time to beat it, which is odd that there's any information whatsoever since it just came out. It's 25% off for $29.99. This will stay on my wish list, although this really does come down to a question about when, if ever, could I commit to playing this game, and should I commit to playing that game. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Thunder Kid. It says it's a low polygon runner shooter. I'm not sure I'm sold here. This does, to be fair, look a lot better than 99% of everything else we've seen today, but that's holding it to a pretty low standard. This might be a good game though, with just a slightly low polygon retro feel to it. Let's see, they want $5.99 discounted right now. I think I'd be willing to put this on the follow list. This is from a developer who has made some other games. Let's see if any of them have gotten any reviews. 4 reviews, 5 reviews, 10 reviews positive, 28 reviews. I don't think it's inherently fair to remove a game from consideration just because their other games haven't gotten any reviews, if I think that it has a chance. So I still think there's a tiny chance that this might be a good game, so I'll put it on the follow list. Odds are, at this rate, nothing would ever happen because I suspect heavily that I suspect that nobody will ever play this game, but I'll keep an eye on it. Maybe it'll be a breakout hit. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Galactic Bulwark Strike, which looks like it's a shooter, flying up to the top of the screen shooter game. Types of games I don't really like at all. Doesn't look like it has much polish to it. Doesn't look like it's got anything that would interest me at all. 30 achievements, $2.99 for no discount, and almost certainly from a developer who's never made anything before. So another game not making it to the list. We'll come out here, start a new dungeon run, and then we'll get these first 2 done relatively quickly. Just stick with the hunter. Next we have a game on Steam called King of the World, which is a real-time strategy multiplayer game. Would have thought it would have been a more fantasy game. Oh, it is characters from different eras. Looks like asset flips, and some of these might be straight up copyright infringement. Characters. I don't know how space marines are gonna be defeated by medieval people. King of the World is 30% off for $10.49, and it it looks polished, but it also looks boring. It says it has single player, but I kind of question that. And this really feels like an asset flip. And was the developer say, yeah, they've got nothing else that they've developed. So yeah, color me unimpressed with King of the World. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Jade Raymond departs EA Motive. Samantha Ryan to add the Montreal studio to her charges. So the senior VA of EA Motive, Jade Raymond, is departing the studio she founded and leaving EA entirely. Not surprising there. I wouldn't be surprised if that entire studio, EA Motive, gets shut down, because that's typically what EA does. Hey, somebody came on to the chat. 1X says hi. Hi, 1X. VentureBeat reports that Samantha Ryan will take over Jade's former role in the studio lead. Ryan heads up EA Mobile, Maxis, and BioWare. So all the companies that are probably going to get shut down relatively quickly. Let's see. In the North Americas. And we'll continue to oversee these in addition to Motive. I have no idea what EA Motive made, though. Let's see. Following the change, Raymond has opted to leave the company. Raymond initially founded EA Motive in 2015 after departing Ubisoft Toronto. You can see there's definitely a problem there if your two options as a career path are work for EA or work for Ubisoft.
I win.
Let's see. Let's see. Raymond initially founded EA Motive in 2015 after departing Ubisoft Toronto, with the initial goal of focusing on new IP in a close collaboration with BioWare. Its first project, however, was to work with Visceral on Amy Hennig's canceled Star Wars game. So the Star Wars game is canceled. This was the support team for that Star Wars game. Later, the studio contributed the Star Wars Battlefront 2. Yeah, I'm sure she wasn't happy about working for that project. Let's see. I guess we do this. You know, I could have actually just played that card and one right then. Let's see. I wouldn't be surprised if she moves to a different job field. Well, no, I wouldn't be surprised if she moves to a different company. Hopefully, if she has any skills, she can lead a new team to make new games at a company that really wants to make new games instead of, you know, EA, who doesn't really want to make games. Death rails trigger twice. There you go, upgrade that. We have a game on Steam called Symphonic Mayhem. Let's see. Multiplayer deathmatch with tanks. Yep. So it's a very simplistic tank game. It looks like. Maybe just a tiny bit of visual polish to get it above an MS Paint level graphics, but way too much black space all around the background. The colors are pretty awful. The textures are pretty awful. It doesn't look like the maps changed that much. Third party EULA again for no reason. $7.99, no discount. Wow. For a little tank game. Had this been 69 cents? Maybe. $7? No way. Let's see. Susan Wojcicki, the CEO, has a YouTube video up that's 4 minutes and 23 cents. That is the October 2018 Creators Letter. So you're making your letter into a video. Way to go as far as being inaccurate in your description. Like, really? Is it a letter or is it a creator update? Some of her tweets were talking about the Article 13 that the EU is considering implementing, which would pretty much ruin YouTube and a few other sites and not really affect too many other sites. It would just be content hosting sites like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and really do nothing for anybody other than make things worse. Article 13 is the memes band as it's been described. Susan Wojcicki doesn't tweet a lot, and when she does tweet, it tends to be oddly, specifically only designed around promoting women, and that's kind of it. But she also stays quiet, so she's not as annoying as a lot of other people on Twitter. If she's just not going to tweet a lot, that's fine. And her YouTube channel is the same thing. It's like, why did you make a YouTube channel when you barely put out one video every 3 or 4 months? The negative to positive ratio, let's see if I can zoom in here. Yeah, right now her open letter is 368 upvotes and 517 downvotes. So whatever she says, most people are not happy with it. No big surprise there. Pretty much anything she says is not the right thing. She's so bad for YouTube, in my opinion. I would just like to see her promoted to work for Google directly and get somebody who actually cares about YouTube in charge. Her reign, or ever since she's been in YouTube, has just made the entire channel a lot worse. Battlecry cards would theoretically be what we're looking for. Do we perhaps have a deck? Before we come in here, let's open the pack. Do we perhaps have a deck full of Battlecry cards that I could play relatively quickly before we move into a silent post show? I'd bet all 5 of those cards get turned into dust. Yep. And then there's 5 new cards that are marked, or 4 new cards that are marked as new for some weird reason. Let's see what this custom mage is. Battlecry. Not enough. I'm gonna just make, I think, a mage deck in wild.
If you make a wild deck, you can only use it in wild games.
We're gonna call it Cry. Then we're gonna type in Cry and hit enter, and hopefully that will be enough cards. So I'm gonna go up to 3, I guess, and come back over here and fill in the rest. And that's 30 cards, 30 Battlecry cards that we can play to speed this process up a little bit on Wild. And come over here and start playing. We have a game on Steam, we only have a couple more, called Lonk's Island, which says 1 hero, 100 adventures, 100 endings. I would assume what this breaks down to is 100 screens, which is not probably a great game, frankly, if it's mostly just platforming and getting to different places. This might be an interesting experience though. I hate the pixely graphics and I hate how zoomed in the pixely graphics is. Like, can you really even tell what this is? Like, one assumes that this is somebody wearing a big hat and they have an eyeballs here and a nose and hands, and this is hair, one would guess. And then this is a spear and those are boots. But I mean, that's a lot. I might be willing to give this one a try though. Or at least follow it, see if it goes. It's 1% off for $7.91. Man, you were joking. 1% off. 1% off. And for what is, I suppose, the idea of a Link's Adventure, Legend of Zelda spoof. See, the other game that they have is Card Creator, which is I assume, not really a game.
Time runs out on me.
I need to play too. Let's see.
Get in there, fight, maggot!
Card creation made easy, fast, and fun. So it's literally
Are you my master?
utility to make cards of some sort, whether it's for card games or I guess it's for card games. Is the idea it's not for trading cards that would work on Steam?
I wonder.
Yep. I was almost willing to give Lonk's Adventure a chance, but they're in such bad company with the other games the developers developed that I'm not willing to give it a chance. Moving on, Tech Raptor has a Shadows Awakening review, good old grind. Never heard of Shadows Awakening, so let's skip down. Looks like a Diablo-esque clone, perhaps. There is a lot of games that are Diablo-esque on my wish list, and I think I'm gonna have to, in a second pass, decide to improve.
Excuse me, you are on fire. Speak your peace.
Like, severely improve just my standards. Excuse me. And get rid of a lot of these Diablo-esque games.
Listen closely.
Tech Raptor gives it a 6.0 good. Summary: Shadows Awakening doesn't do much that is new or interesting, but it does achieve the mostly enjoyable ARPG, which is, I suppose, for Asian RPG, or I guess that's what that stands for.
Can I light your fire?
I'm not 100% sure, actually.
Right. Sever my wrath!
Right away.
What a ball.
The pros are enjoyable grind, good variety of playstyles, Wolf Knoll faction. The cons are a bland story and fails to stand out. So, when I read a review like this, which generally I don't bother to even read reviews much these days, what does this tell me? It's like, well, it's a generally bland RPG game. There's better RPG games on Steam, most certainly. Next we have an interesting story. Apparently, according to TechRaptor, Soul Calibur 7 will ban you from online play if you play via Steam Play. Which, that should not be the case. Like, that does not make a lot of sense at all.
Right away.
This one, that one.
What a bond.
Do that. Let's see. Soul Calibur 7 players trying to play the game through Steam Play, which, or Proton, have found themselves banned from online play even when they install the game on Windows. Proton is a fork of the Wine compatibility layer that allows Linux users to have a better experience playing Windows games. It was added earlier this year and is an extension of the Steam's Steam Play system. It marks a big improvement to their Linux support on the platform. So, Steam Play, I thought, was also the streaming service. Is it both? Or is it just one? Should I play support or should I attack?
What a bond for Dalaran.
Let's just play support. The issue with Soul Calibur 7 causes players to be banned from online play as soon as they start the game. The ban, which extends to their entire Steam account for Soul Calibur 7. Some users are blaming de novo, a form of DRM that many games use, including Soul Calibur 7. Well, 6. It's actually Soul Calibur 6. However, as Reddit user ARTalk3D explains, de novo is not DRM, it's anti-cheat. If the issue was the DRM, then the game wouldn't launch. The fact that players are being banned from online suggests that it's an issue with whatever anti-cheat solution Bandai Namco is using for Soul Calibur 6. They also point to the fact that Taken 7 uses de novo and it visually supports Proton.
You want to cast a spell? I want to cast a spell.
So yeah, it seems like this is probably a bug, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bandai Namco doesn't even bother to address or fix this. Valve has also noted in the release that games with complex DRM or anti-cheat systems will be difficult or even impossible to support via and I guess this would be in the release of Proton. This may explain Soul Calibur 6's having issue. The game will still open for these players and the single player content is still accessible. Hopefully this problem will be addressed soon. We've reached out to Bandai Namco and Valve for comment, and TechRaptor will update their story if they get any response. And I imagine there will be a slight response. There is an issue, certainly, where this could be false claims too. Somebody could have gotten banned from this for some other reason, for actually cheating, and they don't want to admit that, and they want to screw over Soul Calibur 6 and Bandai Namco, so they make these false claims. It could also be just that somebody hates Soul Calibur 6 in favor of some other reason, or they hate Bandai Namco for some other reason. So it wouldn't be unheard of to find out that these stories that get reported as fact and yet have really no collaboration by the people that report them. TechRaptor is not excluded from that, even though they are kind of my preferred news source right now. But yeah, there's really not been any confirmation that that's really what happened. So you have to report it as we are hearing reports from people on Reddit, and it may turn out to not be the case.
Jaina versus
So
Jaina.
that's something that to always
You
be
asked for it.
a little
Oh,
critical
it
of your
is
news.
on.
TechRaptor has another article. Steampunk Graveyard announced for release. Let's take all the 1 mana cards so we can get through this faster. Never heard of Steampunk Graveyard, so it's a game that apparently just came out
Happy
of
Hallows End.
basically nowhere. No price or exact release date has been announced. What was the beginning of this? It was announced for release, but no price or release date has been announced. It looks like it's a pixel game that's probably not that good.
Time runs out on me.
And yeah, this doesn't particularly look that good of a game in the first place. What a waste of time. Totally not news to say a game is announced for release, but we have no price, we have no Steam page, we have no release date. That's not an announcement, that's an announcement to an announcement.
Get in there and fight, maggot!
Let's see.
One shot, one kill.
And finally, I think our last game, we have Skeletal Dance Party on Steam, which, I mean, you've got these weird anime girls showing up on the side here, but it looks like all the real game is this low polygon, blocky looking stuff. It says it's an action indie RPG. I would say it probably is more of a dungeon crawler than anything else. You don't know. Like you get a slightly better thumbnail on this, and it's in Cantaloupe Games. Let's see, how much did I want for it? $8.09 discounted. And has this developer made anything else? It made Scrap Galaxy, which got 5 user reviews. So, just because I only have about 4 games going to the fall list, I'll be exceedingly generous and leave Skeletal Dance Party on the wish list. And let's see. And then that puts me at the Humble Bundle.
Let's make magic.
Let's see, so the Discovery Bundle ends in 15 hours, so I'm probably not going to get that. $10 for several games. 3 out of the 6 games I really would have liked to own. War for the Overworld, Phantom Brave PC, and RWBY Grim Eclipse. And the other games, Osiris New Dawn, Kentucky Route Zero, and Tricky Towers didn't look too bad either. But I believe, if my email was right, there is
My magic will
a new
tear
games
you
bundle.
apart.
Nope.
What to do?
Must be a new monthly
What to
bundle
do?
that they were talking about. Because there's no games bundle listed.
Starlight.
Time runs out.
Starlight.
I don't have enough mana.
Cooking time.
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, Humble Bundle is still trying to push a lot of people to its Humble Monthly bundles. I still don't feel like it's a great deal. And I guess that puts us then. Let's see, we'll look at my Twitch page. Still nothing really happening there. I don't think anybody's finding my Twitch page. I don't think I'm even telling anybody where my Twitch page is, which is fine. Like, still kind of focused right now on YouTube and trying to get monetized on one YouTuber thing. I did see somebody else who is just like a random nobody that I happen to follow because I happen to follow a gaming group on Facebook, just to keep an idea on what those are and how that works, and frankly they mostly suck and aren't worth looking at. They're full of spam and garbage and just low quality posts. Facebook in general, I guess, is mostly that, from my experience of it. But they did post like 5 cents earnings, so this Twitch streamer somehow is making some small amount of money. I don't know if 5 cents is somehow part of the $5
Give it a shot.
subscription that people can do to Twitch Prime. But you would think, yeah, if you're eligible to be subscribed to from Twitch Prime, and I think everybody is, that anybody who's a serious Twitch streamer would have at least one Twitch Prime $5 amount.
I'll give it a shot.
Now, I'm not really trying to win here. I'm trying to play Battlecry cards. Okay. So now I'm back on my Twitter feed, and there's like one game. Let's see. Here's Susan Wojcicki an hour ago tweeted, proud to share this, that earlier today we announced that YouTube is investing $20 million into YouTube Learning and a new initiative to support education focused creators. Which, okay, I get that. Like, mostly it's kids watching YouTube, so maybe you should spend some money to make YouTube look good. Inherently, I think what YouTube needs to do is they need to form a news station. They literally need to buy out a newspaper to compete against the Washington Post, because the Washington Post and other news sources are in direct competition and hate YouTube, and they post a bunch of attack articles against it. So if they had their own newspaper that would just be the Fox News to CNN equivalent for YouTube issues. TechRaptor has an article. Agony Unrated is real standard version coming to the Switch this year. That's an interesting turn of events. Now, I still kind of question whether it's real. I think a lawsuit is incoming on that one. Let's see. Oculus co-founder Brendan Ireby leaves Facebook. Interesting. Not super surprising. 3 hours ago, Hearthstone episode 1054 aired on my channel. I'm still not 100% sure that my thumbnails on my Twitter announcements of my videos are ever coming back, because they now kind of seem like some of the ones that should have had thumbnails and did get the thumbnails back maybe lost them again, so who knows what's going on with that. That didn't play enough to do all the battle cries. So we're out of news. I need to play 20 more battle cries, which would be particularly boring on the European account. And I don't know what happened here that we got as I switched to the Asian account. I don't know what happened that we just had such a small amount of news, and yet it still kind of took 3 hours to stream. Maybe it usually takes 4 hours to stream. And we just didn't get the daily quest done fast enough. It seems pretty random. So I've got to challenge a friend on the Asian account and re-roll this. So challenge a friend and then win with some Warlock victories. If I could get overlapping Warlock and overlapping Warlock, that would be fine. I guess this is where we'll go into a silent post show. That's gonna be it for this recording though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me, you can support me through Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.